Washington studio is Debra Sushan. She's the Director of Policy and Government Relations at Americans for Peace Now. Debra, welcome to our program.
Thanks, Asieh.
So what has changed from Bibi Netanyahu in the last 6 months in terms of being able to form a coalition government if he wins this election?
We don't know that really that much has changed. I mean, it's very possible that we'll see the same kind of result as Stephanie was just talking about, as we did with the last election. It's very possible that we'll have a situation where neither one of the leaders of the two main parties, either Netanyahu or Benny Gantz, will be able to form a coalition. And in that case, there are a few
Back to square one.
God forbid we could be at square three, which would be the third elections within the span of a year, which would be in early 2020. It's a possibility, but there are other possibilities as well. There's the possibility of a grand coalition government that would include both the Likud party and Blue and White, and also Avigdor Lieberman's party, Yisrael Beitenu. So there are various possibilities here.
You brought up Avigdor Lieberman. Explain to us why he is so key in this election. He was also very instrumental in the election in April.
Absolutely. So Avigdor Lieberman is basically the kingmaker here. Benjamin Netanyahu would have had a coalition if Lieberman, who had formerly been his defense minister in the last government, if he had agreed to join that coalition. He had 5 seats last time around. Those 5 seats would have put Netanyahu over the top. However, there's a history of personal animosity between these two men. And Lieberman has made it pretty clear that he will not join a Netanyahu-led government unless, you never know in Israeli politics, it's always possible that that could change, but it seems unlikely. The other thing that's interesting is that since Lieberman took that stand in April, the popularity of his party has increased substantially, and he's polling potentially at something like 10 seats, up from 5. So he still plays a really important role here.
Netanyahu made a rather controversial campaign promise in recent weeks, essentially saying he's going to annex 30% of the occupied West Bank, which Palestinians were hoping to be part of a future Palestinian state, if he wins the election. If he does win the election, Debra, how likely is it that he would follow through with that, essentially killing any chances of a two-state solution?
This is such an important question, Asieh. I mean, on the one hand, Benjamin Netanyahu showed during this election that he was willing to do absolutely anything and everything in order to remain in power. And for him, what that meant was appealing to right-wing and extreme right-wing voters. And there's no better way to do that, unfortunately, than to pledge annexation of large swaths of the West Bank. The part that you're talking about is the Jordan Valley, which is absolutely necessary for the establishment of a Palestinian state. He also promised that he would annex the settlements, and not just the settlement blocks that are on the border of what is actually Israel, but also settlements that are further into the West Bank and outposts. He said that the Jordan Valley annexation, if he remains prime minister, is something that he would do right away. It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous, especially without the international community to restrain him, and particularly the United States. President Trump has shown that he has absolutely no desire
but Israel's Arab neighbors condemned the move, and obviously as well as the Palestinians did.
Well, of course, the Palestinians have condemned it. Jordan, Egypt, other members, the Arab League more broadly condemned it. But it's going to take more than that.
Right.
It would really take the United States, I think, to put its foot down and say this is absolutely unacceptable. One thing that I do want...
I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. But the other thing that I do want to note, Asieh, is that I think that annexation, that formalized de jure annexation of the West Bank is extremely problematic, certainly for those who want to see a Palestinian state and a two-state solution that will bring Israel security and ensure it as a democracy and a Jewish state. But we do have to recognize that de facto annexation is really proceeded on the ground. So even if we manage to somehow escape from seeing annexation in a de jure fashion, we're still not out of the woods until we see a rollback and a return to negotiations.
Debra Sushan, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.